the heart of the orchard. In the quiet, secluded village of Eldenbrook, nestled between jagged cliffs and thick forests, stood the legendary orchard of Eldenbrook, a sprawling expanse of fruit trees, whose apples were known throughout the land for their unparalleled sweetness and unique qualities. The orchard had been passed down through generations, and it had become as much a part of the village as the very soil that nourished it. But in this seemingly idyllic setting, the bond between two brothers, Elias and Gideon, began to unravel in a way neither could have predicted. Elias, the elder of the two, was a man of quiet humility, grounded by the rhythms of the land and the legacy his parents had left him. He had spent years cultivating the orchard not only for the fruit it bore, but for the sense of community it fostered. He believed the orchard was meant to be shared with the villagers, those who helped him, who worked alongside him, and those who simply appreciated its beauty. Each harvest season, Elias opened the gates of the orchard to the villagers, allowing them to gather the apples for free, with no expectations of compensation. His joy came not from wealth, but from the bond he shared with the people. In contrast, Gideon, the younger brother, was ambitious, clever, and driven by an unrelenting desire for power. Unlike Elias, he viewed the orchard as a business, a means to escape the limitations of their humble upbringing. While Elias shared his apples with the village, Gideon began to sell his portion at exorbitant prices, marketing the fruit as rare, exclusive, and highly valuable. The apples were no longer a gift, they were a commodity, a symbol of status. And as the years passed, Gideon's pursuit of wealth overshadowed any sense of family or tradition. Elias and Gideon's differences could no longer be ignored. The friction between them simmered just beneath the surface, erupting occasionally into sharp words and harsh silences. Each brother had a vision for the orchard, but neither was willing to compromise. Gideon accused Elias of being naive, of throwing away the opportunity to turn their family's legacy into something great. Elias, on the other hand, viewed Gideon as a man blinded by greed, willing to sacrifice the very soul of the orchard for fleeting riches. But their clash would reach its breaking point when a mysterious stranger arrived in the village. Arvid, a man whose reputation preceded him. His words was smooth, his smile practiced, and his eyes glinted with a cold calculation. He spoke of riches and fortunes, of connections in distant cities, and of the potential to turn Eldenbrook into a hub of wealth and luxury. It was the very dream that Gideon had been chasing for years. The tension in the village grew when Arvid approached Elias. He began by praising the orchard's apples, claiming to know a network of powerful merchants willing to pay handsomely for the rare fruit. Elias, skeptical and wary of the stranger's intentions, listened quietly as Arvid presented his proposal. He offered to connect Elias with wealthy buyers from far-off cities, promising that the orchard's fame would spread across the land if only Elias would upgrade his methods. He hinted at grander markets, higher prices, and unimagined profits. "Think about it," Arvid said with a glint in his eye. "The world is changing, Elias. People want more than just fruit, they want exclusivity. With my help, your orchard could be the crown jewel of the region. But you must be willing to share the fruits of your labor with those who can truly appreciate it." Elias, deeply disturbed by Arvid's words, refused. "This orchard is not a commodity. It's a gift, meant to be shared with those who love it. I will not sell its soul." Arvid's smile faltered, but he remained calm. "Very well," he said. "But remember, Elias, opportunities like this don't come often. There are others who would not hesitate to take what I offer." Elias dismissed the stranger, but the seed of doubt had already been planted. Would he be wrong to turn away such an opportunity? Could his ideals truly withstand the growing pressures of a world that seemed to care more about profit than purpose? Meanwhile, Gideon had already been seduced by Arvid's promises. When the stranger came to him, offering the same deal, Gideon didn't hesitate. He saw the potential to build an empire where he could control the land, the market, and the future of the orchard. Arvid spoke of a deal that would ensure wealth, status, and recognition. For Gideon, it was too good to resist. But as the months passed, something began to feel off. The apples that had once been the pride of the village started to change. At first, it was subtle. The fruit grew slightly smaller, less vibrant in color, and the sweetness began to wane. But over time, the change became impossible to ignore. The trees were showing signs of strain, their leaves curling, their roots beginning to wither. Gideon, too obsessed with the profits, brushed it aside. He focused on the money, the contracts, the rising prices of his apples. The village was beginning to see the effects, but he refused to acknowledge the damage he was causing. One evening, as winter descended on the village, Elias walked through the orchard, noticing the same signs of decay. He had long suspected that something was wrong. He knelt down by one of the trees and inspected the soil. What he found horrified him: dead roots, an unnatural rot spreading through the earth. The orchard was dying, and Elias knew that the greed and exploitation at the heart of his brother's dealings were the cause. Desperate for answers, Elias confronted Gideon. The confrontation quickly escalated into an argument. "Look what you've done," Elias shouted. The orchard is dying because of your greed. You've poisoned the land with your ambition. Gideon's face darkened. You're just upset because I'm the one who saw the future. This orchard is mine now. It's too late for your ideals. You should have joined me, Elias. Now you're the one holding us back. Their words hung in the air, bitter and charged. Elias, devastated by his brother's betrayal, vowed to restore the orchard to its former glory, no matter the cost. He turned to the one person in the village who might be able to help him. Miriam, the healer. Miriam was an ancient woman who had long studied the secrets of the earth. She knew the balance between nature and man, and she understood the subtle forces at work beneath the surface. Together, Elias and Miriam began their work, focusing not on profit, but on healing the land. She taught Elias how to replenish the soil, how to restore the trees with natural remedies. The process was slow, and it seemed hopeless at times. But Elias remained determined, his connection to the land unshakable. Meanwhile, Gideon's empire began to crumble. His apples, once prized and sought after, were now being rejected by the market. Customers complained about the quality, and competitors began to take notice. His wealth, built on the fragile foundation of greed, began to erode. One night, Arvid appeared again, this time at Gideon's doorstep. His smile was thin, and his eyes gleamed with an unsettling coldness. You've failed, Arvid said quietly. You didn't listen to me. You took too long, and now it's too late. The land doesn't respond to greed. You've lost control of it. Gideon, shaking with anger and fear, realized the full extent of his mistakes. Arvid had never been a true ally. He had merely been using him for his own purposes. The businessman was a parasite, draining the life from the orchard and leaving nothing behind but ruin. Elias wasn't ready to give up. His work with Miriam began to pay off. Slowly but surely, the orchard began to heal. The trees grew stronger, the apples sweeter, and the community once again rallied around him. As the months passed, the land seemed to come back to life, its heartbeat restored. In the final moments, when the orchard had truly begun to flourish again, Gideon stood at its edge, watching the revival he could never have achieved. The lesson was clear. Greed could only take him so far. It was humility, care, and love for the land and for others that truly gave life to the orchard. And as the last of the winter snow melted away, the village of Eldenbrook stood united, its heart beating once more in the rhythm of the orchard. The brothers, now estranged, had each chosen their path, but the land, in its quiet wisdom, had chosen its own. You said,